Hello, class, and greetings from the land of the morning calm here in Korea. Today I am reflecting on the concept of ageism for our course Diversity Awareness at the University of Maryland University College. This term ageism was coined by Dr. Robert Butler over 30 years ago. He is the president of International Longevity Center, USA. I looked up the global site, which can be found at ilc-alliance.org. And I found their mission very interesting. They are helping to advance the cause of continuing the talent and contributions of older people to family and society. They help us all approach life like a course, a life course with all its different levels and stages. The issues they focus on include care, dementia, equality, and human rights, global aging. What I find interesting is intergenerational segregation. This is outside of the family, how we segregate the elderly. And, of course, longevity, something I think we should all be interested in. According to Dr. Butler, there is a lively debate going on whether or not the problem of ageism, which is expressed in cruelty, jokes, languages, and attitudes, and that these attitudes will not get better but worse in the coming decades. Others in his circle remain cautiously optimistic. In our modern age, I find this alarming. I also found some affirmation of my own thoughts and perhaps reasons for this problem on this site and our material. I believe much of these negative attitudes toward the elderly is a result of our idolizing the youth and our pride in extreme independence. As I mentioned in my post, our tradition of rugged individual and pulling ourselves up by our own bootstraps, which has value in its own right, however, lends us to the practice of practically despising the idea of being needy or being dependent on someone else. Even with a spouse, we have to have a certain amount of self-sufficiency. This is our pride as Americans, especially. This attitude, I believe, can ultimately retard what I believe is mature interdependence, which I believe also will have a greater and greater value in our rapid technological growth and the opportunities and expense that they bring in the near future. There's a lot of synergy involved in when people group together to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that come our way. Of course, when it comes to age, I can't help but think of my grandparents and what I consider to be old compared to what I thought was old just a few years ago, decades ago. I recall going through stacks of old National Geographic magazines, which are still here, and watching endless hours of what I thought was boring documentaries. The magazines are here as well. Now I can't get enough of them. I can't get enough of the magazines or the documentaries like Cosmos, Nova Channel, Discovery Channel. And I'm also beginning to realize, for some time now actually, that my traditional religious grandmother wasn't so traditional after all. But never before now have we had so much available at our own fingertips. You know, about the universe, our actual history, our origins, which changed our perceptions of truth. And it also changes with our ability to test those theories. And I'm grateful that I had spent much of those times as I did with all of my grandparents and great uncles and great aunts. Now more than ever, we need the perspective of those that held firmly to what we now consider tradition in order to sift through them for the real gems and the values that they have, the core values. What really gets me going in all of this ageism is what discrimination does to us as a society in general. When we deprive others of anything, we really deprive ourselves of their potential contribution, their take on the experience. Most of us grow up believing that our parents and elders actually knew what they were doing, that our traditional norms are absolute and correct, and we must fight the erosion of those norms, i.e. the decay of our society, which is no light matter either. As we get older and peel the onion layers, though, we find that this isn't always the case. So it is very interesting to me to talk to elderly people about our values and beliefs and see what they make of all this new information. I'm amazed that so many, like my grandmother, will admit, well, we just didn't know. And it's very interesting. Or really? And much more accepting. Actually, very less dogmatic. I really do think it's ironic in a way that they're less dogmatic sometimes than even their children. Because I believe their minds have continued to develop, and they continue to ask questions that they may have had in the back of their minds and never shared those questions with their children while they were teaching their fundamental values or traditions. But those questions never went away. And they also know the questions that their parents or grandparents had. And while they were fine-tuning them themselves and passing them on to their children, they may have appeared much more dogmatic at the time. But as their minds continue to develop and thoughts and answering questions that they didn't pass on, it's up to the next generations, I believe, to sometimes come back. Hey, Grandma, what do you think about this? What's this all about? Even though it may seem uncomfortable at times, because my grandmother was a very strong religious person, and my dad would not even ask questions that I've asked her. One of the best examples I can recall is my stepdad, who is now 87. And he was a devout Catholic, still is a devout Catholic, and he was a Catholic priest for 20 years. And he replied to me one time, he says, I think you're right. You're really onto something there. And I was challenging the whole concept of the traditional nuclear family and some of the very fundamentals of our religion. I'm also fortunate that that my grandparents and great aunts and uncles also were very sharp in their minds. They lived long, and I find that rather humbling because they have very profound concepts and very profound grasp of knowledge, even today's knowledge, not too long ago anyway. And, they really had so little, comparatively speaking, in their generation of the information age. So today we have so much more at our fingertips. It's kind of humbling to realize that what they did with so little, we owe it to them, not only just to take what they gave us at face value, but to take the responsibility we have of developing it further and understanding what the cores of those beliefs really are. So, really, what I really muse about here is that we lose a tremendous resource and historical context when we deprive ourselves of an aged person's mind. Even if an elderly person has no interest whatsoever in new discoveries or the ambition themselves to change anything, well, one, perhaps they are too busy looking for their next paycheck or their healthcare supplement. I think it is up to us, first of all, to alleviate those concerns for health and their income, as much as possible anyway, and then to engage them, actively, purposefully engage them, because that is how we learn. We need their perspective. Think about it just from your own family perspective. What are your beliefs and traditions, and how did you get them? What is their core purposes? Ironically, I believe that the best way to preserve something, to ensure its lasting effect, is to change it. Traditions are like technology. They are tools that get better as we continue with the upgrades. Thank you.